Well, hello there everyone. I've said it plenty of times before that mechs are objectively awesome, but you know what else is awesome? Dinosaurs. So after a high effort shitpost got enough praise and traction, the creator of said shitpost decided to push it forward even more by creating a genuine honest to goodness video game known as Dinoblade. And I talked about how the game is very cool in my other ranking where I rank those bosses from worst to best. Today, however, I will be looking at the difficulty side of things and ranking the bosses from easiest to hardest, based off of my objectively correct opinion that cannot be refuted. Also, this game has an in-game death counter that lasts throughout the entire thing, so I figured, hey, why not? Now, enough rambling, let's get on to talk about dinosaurs with massive weapons fighting to the death, shall we? Number 17, Horn. Seeing a boss from the final area of the game as the easiest boss might seem kind of like an odd choice, but honestly, outside of his weird weapon, he's just kind of a punching bag. By this point, you're pretty close to maxed out what you want your final build to be, and there's just not a lot he can do against you with all your invincibility frames on some attacks and being able to stun him out of a lot of his long windups. Beating him no damage would be very difficult, but he was the only boss in the game I found it viable to just ignore basically everything and tank and spank, and I feel like that says enough. Number 16, Shield. I like this boss a lot, but he's not difficult, like, at all. Granted, he's the first optional boss in the game, but he honestly feels more like a follow-up to Kira the Exiled than Kasei the Tyrant. His armored face can make him a little bit less of a punching bag, and despite him being a Stegosaurus, he is pretty mobile, but when there's a decently high chance you'll just miss this boss until the end of the game and absolutely stomp him into the ground, that's not helping his odds. And quite frankly, he's not even close to the same league as the other two optional bosses in the area. Number 15, the Tyrant Trio. I know I could choose to not count this as a boss, but again, it's such an unnecessary encounter that adds nothing of value to the game, while also being the only required fight in the game outside of the very tutorial learning combat and, well, boss fights in this game. Quite frankly, I think cutting it from the game would have been a benefit because it's just tedious and goes on for a pretty good long while. But don't get me wrong, I'm kinda glad this fight's a joke difficulty-wise because I would hate fighting this boss straight up. Instead, these guys are near brain dead and super easy to camp out or just spam down with your powerful attacks and use hyper armor and invincibility frame for the win. Honestly, I think I would have just preferred a Mega Man style boss rush against the previous 3 area bosses over this crap because it seems so random. We're just fighting Kasei Phase 1, but there's 3 of them. Oh, and there's sometimes meteorites falling from the sky. I'm like, why? This adds nothing of value. Number 14, Reaper and Shade. A gank boss may seem spooky, but when they both have very little HP and it's easy to keep Shade away, there's only so much the boss can do in retaliation. You can use your strongest attacks and make Shade watch in horror as you tear his brother limb from limb, or even greater horror as you make his lightning bolt go right into his brother Reaper and strike him for a decent bit of damage. It's not a bad gank boss, but it sure is an easy one, though I'm honestly not really complaining because I don't think this game was really designed with multiple enemy combat in mind, outside of just, kiting a bunch of them and trying to hit them all in one swing. Number 13, Speed. This guy can be an absolute bastard, but his main advantage is being a glass cannon, and while he can stun lock you and let you not play the game, you can kind of do the same thing to him with enough hyper armor and invincibility frames in some of your attacks, and you can stop him in his tracks because he staggers easily given his small size. Heck, with how frequently he attacks, you could also spam guard to score a parry on him by accident and just knock him out of a combo that way. He's one of those bosses that while you can't exactly tank and spank, you can pretty effectively burn him down before he gets a chance to do much of anything. Number 12, Mogusei the Titan. Mogusei definitely has the damage output to be a tough boss fight, but he doesn't have the moveset or the AI. He's a long-range fighter without a way to keep you at long range once you close the distance, so instead, all he has are 2 basic stomps, a tail whip that can easily be blocked and even jumped over, and his dual stomp that looks scary, but it's actually pretty easy to iframe dodge through. And all of his attacks are pretty easy to parry as well. Of course, this is assuming his AI will even decide to attack you in the first place, because there's a high chance he'll just sit there and let you wail on him for a good while until he suddenly throws out another attack before waiting another 20 seconds, and suddenly then his health is gone. He may be the largest foe in the game, but he's so inactive that all the other major bosses feel like much bigger foes to actually battle because they properly retaliate. Number 11. Kira the Exile. Now don't get me wrong, Kira can be very easily dealt with and taken down in about a minute, but he's not only the game's tutorial boss, but also the first opponent that really is going to attack back, and has more than like one attack. And he's got a decent enough move variety with his slashing, charge attack, boomerang toss, and a spin to win on top of his clash. On repeat playthroughs, he should give you no trouble, but a first timer might just die to him when they're still learning the game. I did once, I'm really not ashamed to admit it. He's easy, but he's not a complete cakewalk for a first time playthrough. Number 10, Axe. A lot of the same statements can be applied to Axe, but because he introduces unblockable attacks and has more combos he can perform, I would say he maintains his difficulty a little bit more on a repeat playthrough, where you will not be able to just autopilot through the boss fight. Now, you will start having some offensive skills available, but the game expects you to actually have them and use them here because Axe doesn't screw around and will more than happily end combos with the unblockable attacks. Compared to late game foes, he's a minor threat, but as only the second boss in the game and the first opponent to have unblockable attacks, you will likely need to sit up in your chair to beat him. Number 9, Tank. If you take it slow and chip away at him, Tank might be easier than even Kira, but he's going to make that challenging as his whole body is heavily armored aside from his underside, so you either need to parry his attacks to knock him over, or wait for him to end with a back slam attack and get some hits in for real damage. Even then, this boss will take a good long while to whittle down, and he's going to wear away at your patience. And be careful, because while he's small and I'm assuming his output for damage is no joke. This boss is here to humble players that get too careless or too impatient, because, well, he's not the longest fight in the game, but he's going to necessitate taking your time. Number 8, Katsuro. Katsuro is one of the most acrobatic foes in the game, and one of the few I see actively dodging my attacks while also retaliating something fierce, with all his kicks and flips and all those different combos he has going on that he can chain together and make himself have something close to an infinite. He's kind of like your introduction to the late game bosses, because while he's not going at Mach 2, he's the fastest opponent up to this point in the game, even more so than the dinosaur named Speed, which is a little bit funny. And unlike that little jackass, this guy is making very good use of his high attack frequency. Honestly, if he didn't flinch so often, he might be in the top 3, but he is pretty easy to stun during his combos if you can find a window to hit him. So a decent chunk of his health can be knocked down, but that doesn't mean he's going to let you just take him from full health to death. It's more a case of he's not quite an unbreakable wall. Number 7, Stick. Stick looks like a very unassuming foe that doesn't seem like he'd do too much of anything, and most of his attacks are small combos that are blockable, outside of his heavily telegraphed big thrust attacks, which you kinda know parry or get out the way. But he will punish the over-aggressive players because he's able to parry you right back and retaliate when doing so, and is more than happy to do so if you're getting over-aggressive. And because his arena is so large, it's not impossible for enemies from outside to stumble into this place with him, likely to be killed in the crossfire, but there's always the chance that one of them clips you with a hit, and that can make the difference between life and death. Number 6, Dose the Giant Claw. It's all because of Phase 2. Phase 1 of this boss fight may have some atmosphere going for him, but it's a complete joke. It's when he enters Phase 2 and starts unlocking the Speed Force and using his psychic powers, he becomes a real threat. This is the fastest opponent in the game, bar none, especially during some of his slash combos. And while Katsuro would intentionally dodge your attacks, Dose is so fast that he just kinda does that on accident while winding up an attack. If you're a parry god, like, say, Ongball, he's probably no big deal, but otherwise this battle will be rough. I won the fight by locking in when the boss had about a quarter of his health left and I had no heals and only 1 HP. It's not an easy fight at all, and it came down to the wire quite often. Number 5, Haku. Haku is here because his damage is pretty crazy for the early game, and his fight is filled with visual clutter. Everything is kicking up dust and making his follow-ups hard to see, which can be a problem when he keeps spamming his 3-hit combo multiple times in a row with basically no cooldown, and he just keeps going for that attack over and over, to say nothing of his rock waves or the giant ice cloud. For an optional boss in the second area, he really does not fuck around. You need to be careful here. Number 4, Akai. It's probably surprising to see the second to last main boss not crack the top 3, but to be fair, a lot of it is because while he has a ton of attacks available, so do you by the end of the game, and a vast majority of his attacks are also able to be blocked. So if you utilize something like Ankh the Tank's Soul to restore your HP upon blocking or parrying the enemy, that makes this long boss fight suddenly much more manageable and possibly even downright easy in some cases, especially when you can get through his first health bar without even needing to touch your healing supplies. Phase 2 is much the same, where he looks overwhelming, but if you keep a cool head, there's not much he can do against someone that doesn't panic under pressure. Now, not to say this boss is easy, he took me half a dozen attempts, but the fact is, with him being pretty lacking in unblockables, he can be easily cheesed out by Ankh the Tank's Soul, because I got through his first health bar without using a single healing charge, and took out his true form only having to heal once, still having 5 more uses on top of my very own Tears of Denial to keep me alive at 1 HP. He's an awesome boss fight, he's a great antagonist, and he's my favorite boss in the game, but he's not a boss you should be stuck on for hours and hours on end, maybe like 30 minutes or so. Number 3, Kase the Tyrant. Kase, on the other hand, might be a boss in the very first area, but he forces you to lock the hell in if you want to win. A ton of poise so he won't flinch, a large moveset, plenty of unblockables that must be dodged or parried, limited offensive options as he's only the 3rd boss in the game and you haven't even gotten your 2nd weapon yet, and more health than both Axe and Kira combined, making for a very dangerous foe to try and overcome. And then he enters Phase 2, where he introduces the first mandatory QTE of the game, gains new combo starters and finishers, and even more unblockable attacks, and now he can throw his gigantic sword at you and chase it down as a way to near instantly close the distance. This guy will be tough. Though, admittedly, I quite enjoyed the fight. He's a boss where you'll be required to lock in and learn the game's mechanics if you want to win, and the game gives you the ability to instantly retry the fight without having to respawn at any save points. He's hard, but I wouldn't call him a difficulty spike. He is the test, basically, to see if you're ready for the rest of the game. Number 20, Red Ash. Red Ash is not that durable of an opponent. In fact, winning won't even take you 2 minutes, but the simple fact is this guy's damage and attack arsenal are unmatched, as he has an answer for everything, be it fire, ice, or going really friggin' fast, as well as being able to melt you point blank range with fire breath. While his fight is brief, I think I can sum it up this way. The game has a death counter that's for your playthrough. When I fought this boss, I was at 11 deaths. When I beat him, I was at 25 deaths. I think that should say enough. It's a very short fight, but it's one where you're probably going to die a lot before you get the win. Number 1, Machiuri the Ice King. While Red Ash was hard, he still had some attacks that could be blocked, and he was very frail for the endgame. The same does not apply to Machiuri the Ice King in his near 10-minute long battle, where the only attack of his that can even be blocked is the stomp opener to one of his big combos. He's got some very long and devastating combos with some intentional delays designed to trip you up. He can summon the souls of other monsters with attacks that cannot be blocked or parried and instead must be dodged. His icicles are lingering hitboxes, his ice breath will shred you if you don't dodge immediately, and despite being one of the largest opponents in the game, he's surprisingly agile, being able to dodge your attacks in quick step to make or close the distance. And I haven't even talked about Phase 2 yet, where it looks like the apocalypse has begun, as now we have everything being followed up with fire. You're on fire, I'm on fire, the boss is on fire, the arena is on fire, the world might even be on fire. He can also leave the arena and jump you from a really long distance, which looks kind of terrifying and hilarious at the same time. His stomp attack now sends out fire. His combos are even longer, and now instead of just some dinosaurs, he can summon a fucking fire-breathing dragon that leaves ice trails. and it gains a very devastating electric dash attack when the Flame Reborn drops below half health, and I still don't have a reliable counterplay to this other than dodge spamming and backing the fuck off to bring Makuri back to neutral, and his Fire Breath is also going to one-shot you if you don't dodge out of the way as well. And when his health gets lower, the dragon begins insisting he wants to join in the fight even more, so you have to keep moving, and honestly, this guy, yeah, it's a lot. Everything is going on. You have fire follow-ups as well that can get around your Tears of Denial passive. No other boss in the game comes close in terms of difficulty, because even though Red Ash killed me a bunch, it was easy to get back into the fight, while Makuri, even though there's a checkpoint right at the beginning of the battle, you have to whittle through 2 health bars, both capable of being very difficult final bosses on their own, and you have to do it all back to back with your limited healing, and whatever healing you can eke out from other ways. And we can't forget that the ending where you have to destroy a fucking meteor he calls down. He's the hardest boss in the game, and it's not even a competition. And that's going to do it for this video. Once again, Dinoblade is an awesome little game. Took me about 5 hours to beat, but fun enough that I went and replayed it, and I highly recommend you check out the demo at the very least. Plus, I mean, the game's $20, and I think it's one of the best ways you can waste your money. That's all I've got for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, consider liking, subscribing, and hyping the video, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care, and don't let your tires explode. That wasn't a joke, by the way. This happened to me when I was driving to work on Tuesday.